Hey everyone, my name is Mesa Zidan and I will be doing my presentation on the portable AP projection of the chest. As radiographers, it is important for us to evaluate our own images before we send them off for the radiologist to read. So it's important to know what to look for. And in this slide, it demonstrates a high quality image. And we are going to go through the evaluation criteria to see what makes this a high quality image. The first being evidence of proper collimation. On this slide, you can see the radiograph. It displays no motion with well-defined, not blurred, diaphragm domes and lung fields. The lung fields are included in their entirety, including the costophrenic angles. You can see the pleural markings. The ribs and the thoracic intervertebral disc spaces are faintly visible through the heart shadow. There is no rotation, which is indicated with the medial portion of the clavicles and the lateral border of ribs being equidistant from the vertebral column. There are at least 9 posterior ribs above the diaphragm, which indicates that this exposure was taken with the patient taking full inspiration. And as always, radiographic markers which help see the position of the patient. Now that we've seen what a good high quality image looks like, let's evaluate some images. In this X-ray image on the slide, if we look closely, we will see that there is evidence of rotation. Rotation is identified on an AP chest by evaluating the distances between the vertebral column and the sternal ends of the clavicles, and by comparing the lengths of the posterior ribs. So if we look, we can see on this image the right sternal clavicular end is seen superimposing the vertebral column, and the right side demonstrates less posterior rib length than the left. The central ray was angled toward the left side of the patient. The spinous process is also not aligned right down the middle of the vertebral bodies, indicating that the patient was rotated. So to correct this, we would adjust the central ray angulation cephalically until it is aligned perpendicular to the midcoronal plane. In this image, right off the bat, we can see that it is missing a right marker on the right side of the patient, and it also has incorrect cephalic tube angle. This is indicated by the clavicles being projected too high. There is less than 1 inch of the apical lung field being visible above the clavicles. The posterior ribs also demonstrate a horizontal contour, indicating that the central ray was angled too cephalically. The costophrenic angles are not included. They are clipped on both sides, and the IR was not positioned behind the patient correctly because there is not 1.5 to 2 inches above the relaxed shoulders, as well as it not being centered evenly on both sides. There's more of the right side being displayed than the left side of the patient. The scapula is superimposing the lung field on both sides, and also, like we said before, the marker is missing. So to correct this, we would adjust the central ray angulation caudally until it is aligned perpendicular to the midcoronal plane. We would position the IR equally on both sides, make sure it's centered, with about 2 inches above the patient's relaxed shoulders. We are going to get our patient to have their hands on the side and internally rotate their arms to draw that scapulae out of the lung field. We're going to open up our collimation to include the costophrenic angles and to add a marker on the patient's right side. In this image right off the bat, what sticks out to me is that the clavicles are way too low. The manubrium is inferior to the fourth thoracic vertebra, and more than 1 inch of the lung apices is being demonstrated superior to the clavicles. The posterior rib contour is also more vertical in this image, and this indicates that the central ray was angled too caudally. The lateral clavicular ends are superior to the medial clavicular ends, indicating that the central ray was also centered too low. The lung apices are clipped at the top. So to correct this, we would adjust the central ray angulation more cephalically until it is aligned perpendicular to the midcoronal plane. We would adjust the central ray to 3 inches below the jugular notch and include 2 inches above the shoulder. Now let's see if this jogged up your memory and you are able to answer these quiz questions. When performing a portable AP projection of the chest, the central ray enters at what level? Is it the level of T7, which is the inferior angle of the scapula, 3 inches below the jugular notch, at the level of T1, or T5? If you picked B, 3 inches below the jugular notch, then you are correct. For a mobile AP projection of the chest, indication of good inspiration is present when how many ribs are present on the image? Is it 9 posterior ribs, 10, 11, or 12? If you said A, 9 posterior ribs, you are correct. At least 9 posterior ribs need to be included on the X-ray image. Which criteria does not pertain to the portable AP projection of the chest? Is it A, no rotation, B, the entire lungs from the apices to the costophrenic angles, C, ribs and the thoracic intervertebral disc spaces are faintly visible through the heart shadow, or is it D, the clavicle should lie superior to the apices? So the one that does not belong is D, the clavicle should lie superior to the apices. Here are the references that I used for my presentation, and I hope this was helpful in refreshing your memory of the portable AP projection of the chest. Let me know if you have any questions.